Uh, so what we're gonna do here today is we have a few different guest panelists. We're gonna give you information on what Stop the Money Pipeline is and this movement. Um, we have Bill McKibben. We have Ilana Shulashana. Sorry, Sam Danowski and Tom Swan. And up first is going to be Bill McKibben, and here he is.
All right. Well, Angel, thank you very much for getting this all together, you and Selectiona. This is great pleasure to get to join with you. It's at the end of a hectic day, so let me start there, and that kind of lays the groundwork for where we are. I woke up this morning to just to make sure that Rolling Stone had published this piece of mine that I've been working on for a while that was about Chase Bank. It's called The Doomsday Bank, and it's not a very nice piece about the fact that the biggest bank in the world is also the biggest lender to the fossil fuel industry, really the biggest financier of climate change, if you want to think about it in that way. So I was glad to get that out, and somewhat amazed some hours later when Chase Bank announced that it was beginning to make small steps to begin in the most halting and grudging way to comply with the demands that activists have been making on it. This is actually somewhat of a pattern. Earlier this year, or last year, late last year, I published an op-ed in the Globe about Liberty Mutual, and a few hours later, Liberty Mutual did the right thing. Now, in neither case was my writing the reason that this happened. It was just an accident of timing. But in both cases, it shows that these huge financial institutions do indeed pay attention to what's going on around them, that they're much less protected than one might think against citizen action, citizen pressure, damage to brand, damage to reputation. And hence, we've got an unbelievable opportunity coming up as April 23rd approaches for this Stop the Money Pipeline work to really dig in. So I want to just outline, because I have to leave in a few minutes, I want to just outline a little bit what it is that makes this so exciting for me. You know, I wrote a piece for the New Yorker last summer, kind of laying out the basic logic here, that it's not just the fossil fuel companies, not just the Exxons and the Chevrons of the world that are turning this place into an inferno. It's the companies that are lending them the money to let them do what they want to do. And the amount of money they're lending is astonishing. Chase alone has lent $196 billion over the last 3 years. That's a lot of money. That's the money pipeline that keeps the fossil fuel industry expanding, even in the face of every scientific argument that there is. It's not just the banks, it's the big asset managers like BlackRock, and it's the big insurers of particular interest to those of you in the Nutmeg State that are providing all this money, and in the case of the insurance industry, also underwriting all the most dangerous products in the world. So these are guys that are deeply complicit with the climate crisis, and they're targets that we need to be taking seriously. There's two fights going on this year, it seems to me. One is the big political fight that will end in the November elections. That couldn't be more important. We're all involved and everyone is watching it and paying attention, and it's a very big deal. We can't take another 4 years of Trump doing what he's doing. So pulling the political lever is key, but at least as important is also pulling the other power lever there is in our society, which is the financial lever. In some ways, it's a little easier to imagine change coming out of Wall Street than Washington for a couple of reasons. One, if we could ever get these guys to move, then the movement will come quickly. You know, when BlackRock made its announcement earlier this year that it was going to start taking climate change seriously, That was reflected in every stock market in the world within a matter of hours. Wasn't long after that that Jim Cramer, the most important stock picker in American television, was up there on the screen ranting night after night about how you couldn't make money in oil and gas anymore because everyone was divesting from it. It was a big deal. And when Wall Street changes, the change is global. It's not like Washington rules the world anymore, but the world's money still kind of follows the direction of what happens on those few square blocks down in lower Manhattan and in the insurance marts of Hartford and, so on. Our political system has to change too, but that change is likely to be slower. And even if we can change Washington, that leaves the other capitals of the world to work with. All I'm saying is, as we're transfixed by the primary season, let's also be transfixed by this golden opportunity in front of us to muck around with the richest, most powerful institutions on the face of the earth. And we can do it. When we started talking about this Stop the Money Pipeline stuff in November, part of me was a little, I don't know, these guys are so big and so strong. But I mean, they're the pillars of global capital. That's what they are. But they have reason to worry about us. If you look at a company like Chase or like Liberty Mutual or something, they spend all their time building their brand, running ads on TV, doing everything they can to make people feel good about them. They know that if they can get young people to take out a Chase credit card early on, they'll stick with it likely for much of their lives. And that means, conversely, they have to fear the damage that we can do to those brands and reputations. They don't want to see videos of Jane Fonda and Greta Thunberg cutting up Chase credit cards. They don't want to see thousands of people marching on Liberty Mutual offices, pointing out that whatever their crazy mascot, say emu or something, is like going to be driven extinct if we keep burning down, in large continents. We have an opportunity here because these guys have to face the public. And we have an opportunity because, unlike Exxon or Chevron, it's not like it's their whole business. I mean, Chase is the biggest fossil fuel lender on earth, but it's only 6 or 7% of their business. They can still make money other ways. So we have a chance here. But what it's going to take is a kind of all-out assault that they haven't seen before. They're not used to people in their grill, in their really in large numbers causing them trouble. And that's what April 23rd is about. It's the day after the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. The youth, climate striker people who are kind of taking over Earth Day in essence this year have designated the 23rd as Finance Day and asked all of us, really asked adults in this case primarily, to really take on the financial institutions. That means that we need people in every branch of Chase Bank in Connecticut, and we need them at the Liberty Mutual and BlackRock offices and things too, even though those are scarcer. Now, some people will go do civil disobedience. I got arrested in DC in January at the kind of launch of this at a Chase Bank. Last week, 28 people were arrested in Seattle at the Chase branch there. Some people will do that, and it's a good and important opportunity for that kind of civil disobedience. Other people will decide that it's more useful where they are to do informational pickets outside the offices of these financial institutions, or church groups to do pray-ins, or I've talked to people who are planning to march brass bands through the lobbies of these banks, and just turn it into a kind of holiday. What we need is a presence in all of these places so that they know that they're on notice, so that no one has any doubt what's going on. And if we do this, this is something on this scale that hasn't been done before. It'll get noticed. It will matter. It's already mattering just in the kind of lead up to it. So I can't thank people enough, the people on this call, Sam and Tom and Angel and Selectiona, who are doing such an amazing job of getting things together. And just know that there are people like you worried about this and thinking along the same lines in every corner of the country now. This is going to be a nationwide effort that really is going to break the seal on a whole new front in the climate campaign. I'll just finish by saying, we don't know. We don't know if we can move these guys, though I think we may be able to. And we don't know, even if we manage to move them at this point, whether we've waited too long to get started or not. Look, we're in a scary place. Anybody watching those pictures that came out of Australia in January knows how scary a place we're in. We had people, thousands of people, standing on beaches, wading into the ocean because it was the only way to save themselves from the flames that were raging on the other side of the beach. Think about that for a minute. I mean, think about if you're in Connecticut and standing on the beach and I don't know where, in Madison or someplace, and there's, a firestorm raging just across the beach road and you have to wade into the water to save your life. Well, there were thousands, tens of thousands of people in that predicament. That's where the world already is, That's what these guys have brought us to. So our job is to stop them, to make it clear to them that they have to be a force for the future and not for the past. And we'll see if we can be done, and we will do it together. And it will be a beautiful, beautiful day when we do it. You will do whatever you're going to do, and then you'll get to go home and watch the images of other people like you from all over the country whose hearts and minds are in the same place. And let me just say as I close, just thanks in advance to every one of you. You're the people who are, look, not many people get to say, I'm doing the single most important thing I could be doing in the world right now. It's not something that happens very often in most people's lives. But if on April 23rd, you're in the lobby of the biggest bank on planet Earth and you're telling them they need to stop and they're hearing that message, then you will literally be doing the most important thing you could be doing. And that's a great privilege for all of us to get to do that. And what an honor it is to get to do it together with all of you. So thank you enormously. And I'm sorry that I need to run to get off to Illinois now for the next part of this, unless there are questions or things I'm supposed to answer right away. But mostly just thanks enormously to all of you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much for all your work. You do great work, and I wish you all the success as possible in the future.
Back at y'all, and we'll see you in Connecticut soon. I will say, though I'm a Vermonter, I did acquire my wife in Connecticut, and so my love for Norwalk in particular knows no bounds. So do it up big in Connecticut. And I can't wait to see the pictures flowing in from all over the state.
We will, Bill. We will.
Take care,
Thank you so much. Have a good flight.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Bill McKibben with the big picture of this movement. And now we have Selectiona, who will be talking about an overview of the insurance industry and how it's fueling the climate crisis. Okay?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Angel. Let me just get the tech all set up. See, I've got some big shoes to fill following Bill McKibben there. Okay. Let's see, can folks see my screen? Yep, okay, I'm gonna play this presentation. As I do that, I can introduce myself quickly. My name is Selectiona. I am based in Seattle, Washington, though originally from Massachusetts, so not too far from Connecticut. And I am an energy finance campaigner with an organization called Rainforest Action Network. And I lead our work going after the insurance industry for its role fueling the climate crisis. So I am going to get started here. Okay, present. There we go with these slides. So first of all, I just wanted to kind of outline why we are going after the insurance industry. And insurance is an invisible but essential piece of the fossil fuel economy. In the same way that you need insurance to drive a car, or when you buy a house, you get insurance, fossil fuel companies need to purchase insurance to build and operate projects like pipelines, refineries. We all know how dangerous these things are. They spill, they explode, they leak. And so insurance companies kind of come in and they cover the risks of these projects. So on the right-hand side of this screen here, you'll see a certificate of insurance for the Trans Mountain Tar Sands Pipeline, which is a massive proposed pipeline up in Canada that carries oil from Alberta down to British Columbia and has not obtained the consent of impacted First Nations along its route. So here we have a list of companies that have said, yes, we will cover you in case you spill or if there are car accidents or things. And projects like these have many, many insurers that are involved in covering them. So the first reason that we are going after the insurance industry as a piece of the Stop the Money pipeline campaign that Bill was just talking about is because they provide this crucial coverage. The second reason is because insurance companies invest a whole lot in fossil fuels. It's estimated that the US insurance industry has $450 billion in coal, oil, and gas companies. So they kind of take the premiums that you and I pay for our car insurance or renter's insurance, and then they invest that into the fossil fuel industry so they can develop more projects. On the right, you'll see Liberty Mutual alone is $8.9 billion in these companies. AIG and Farmers not far behind. And finally, insurance industry knows better. They have the climate models to show that climate change is happening. They know that places are becoming uninhabitable. In fact, they are withdrawing insurance coverage from places that are at risk of sea level rise or wildfires. So in California, for example, my family lives in a small town in Northern California that has been really impacted by the wildfires. And Liberty Mutual pulled out all of its home coverage and car coverage in that region because they know that climate change is happening. At the same time, they're not protecting communities. They're continuing to insure fossil fuels. So this hypocrisy is pretty astounding, and it's something that we've been highlighting in the campaign. So what has happened so far? The Insure Our Future campaign is part of a global campaign called Unfriend Coal that has gone after insurance companies across the world. And we have had 19 companies that have stepped up and adopted policies. Most of those have said, we're not insuring coal as a first step. Increasingly, we're seeing companies also saying, we're not going to touch tar sands oil or Arctic oil. And last week, a company based in Switzerland, Swiss Re, even came out with a policy that was kind of across the whole oil and gas sector, looking at the most carbon intensive companies. So we're seeing kind of quick movement across the industry as they're kind of, realizing that they are at risk because of climate change. They're paying out for the losses, and they have a role to play, a really important role in leveraging their kind of position as an insurer to force the energy transition. So here in the US, we have had 4 policy wins. Oh no, my 4th box didn't come up for some reason. But on Chubb, Axis Capital, Liberty Mutual, and the Hartford, let's see, maybe, there we go, Liberty Mutual and the Hartford, based in Connecticut, as you all know, have adopted policies. All 4 of these are on coal, and then Axis Capital and the Hartford have also addressed tar sands. And this has followed on the heels of public pressure. People across the country have been showing up outside of insurance industry conferences, headquarters of these companies. We've been engaging with them, media work. kind of getting prospective students, prospective insurance industry employees to speak up. And so far, most of this has been focused on Liberty Mutual. As Bill mentioned, he wrote that piece in the Boston Globe. We've had big demonstrations with our Statue of Liberty costumes outside the headquarters. And following just a few months of this public pressure, they announced a policy last December. But we know that Liberty Mutual is not the only insurance company that is doing this. They are one of the top fossil insurers, but they are not the only one. And in fact, the reason I was so excited, let's see, I'm getting word that maybe my slides aren't coming through. Uh-oh. Sorry about this. Let's see if I can try and fix this. Oh no, after all that. My apologies. Okay. I'm gonna share again, and also, because of this whole thing, I will send out the slides to everyone after this, and we'll make sure that you can see them. So let's say, let's see, I've got my chat now. Can folks give me a thumbs up if they can see these slides? Yes, we're good. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. So here, insurers invest in fossil fuels. Policy wins. Here's the Liberty Mutual campaign, that op-ed that Bill McKibben mentioned. Let's see, kind of photos of us taking action outside Liberty Mutual's headquarters in Boston. As I was just saying, Liberty Mutual is not the only insurance company that we need to be going after. It's really, there's a kind of whole list of US insurers that are propping up the fossil fuel industry. So what I was so excited about today, and why I was really stoked to talk to you all, is because you all live in and around what is known as the insurance capital of the world. So Hartford, Connecticut, and I just put up some facts here that are pretty exciting. Hartford is the #1 location for insurance industry jobs. So the most jobs there, which 63,500 folks in Connecticut are employed in the industry. It's home to many of the world's largest private insurance companies. Hartford, which I mentioned earlier, Travelers, Chubb, which I also mentioned, and then all sorts of other health insurers, Cigna, Aetna. There are more than 1,440 insurance companies that operate in the small state of Connecticut. And also, really interestingly, it has the highest concentration of actuaries of any region in the US. And actuaries are very highly sought after in the insurance industry. And there's also a lot of training that's done for students in the Hartford area to go into the insurance industry. So the fact that you all live in and around this area means that you have a really unique opportunity to pressure the heart of the US insurance industry to transition away from fossil fuels and to the clean energy future that we need. So in addition to kind of all the companies that are headquartered there, they have meetings there, or executives come. You have executives around milling about, right? They live there. They show up at different events. You have students that are being trained to go into the industry. And I think lots of fun opportunities for action. So I want to quickly talk about what's coming next, and then I'll pass it over to the folks in Connecticut that are planning some amazing campaigns to tell you more about this. So far our work has really been focused in kind of a few places with a few companies, but we need to be highlighting the role that US insurers are playing in driving climate change. And there's lots of scope to do that around brand damage. These companies are highly sensitive to what people think. They have many customers like you and me that are just buying our car, home insurance. And then also the insurance industry has a massive workforce shortage. They need to fill hundreds of thousands of jobs in the next few years. So targeting those recruitment channels and getting young people who are so passionate about climate change to speak up and say, hey, I want to be working at a company that's doing something about climate change. As Bill said, Earth Week, April 23rd, is going to be a really key week. People are taking action across the country on insurance, banks, and asset managers. And then also mobilizing policyholders and shareholders to use their rights. If you own a policy or if you own stock in an insurance company, to exercise those at annual meetings that these companies have. So I'm going to stop there. Apologies that the slides were not working for so much of that. We'll be sure to send those around to everyone as well as a recording of this so you can share it. I'm going to pass it back to Angel.
All right, thank you, Selexana. That was an overview of the insurance industry and why it's so important for us here in Connecticut. Next, we have Sam Danowski. She's the director of the Sierra Club in Connecticut, and she will be talking about legislation and the Green New Deal part of it, and I guess there's an insurance bill in the works, so she'll be giving details about that. Sam?
Thanks, Angel, and hi, everybody. So glad you all joined the call tonight. I just want to follow up a little bit on Selexana's presentation about the industry to give you a few details about Connecticut-based insurers, to give you a sense of where they're at. And obviously, we have a really unique role to play to take action with these insurance companies and put them on notice and make demands that they make change. So just a few numbers I think you might be interested in. We know, because the state of California Department of Insurance collects data on how the insurance industry is invested in fossil fuels, we know how much each insurance company is invested. So Cigna, which is headquartered in Bloomfield, it's a health insurance company. They have invested about $2.25 billion in fossil fuels. The Hartford, which, as Selexana noted, has been responding to some demands and taking some action, at the latest calculation had over $3.3 billion invested in fossil fuels. Travelers, whose largest office is here in Hartford, has $850 million invested. In Greenwich, a company called W.R. Berkeley has $2.2 million invested. And we have a long list. That was just a highlight of a few. But clearly, if we can get them to stop investing in fossil fuels, that does not even include what they're insuring. We know nothing can go on without insurance. So if we can make a difference on both those fronts, we'll be really doing amazing work. I wanted to talk about a little bit just about the Connecticut legislature and some of the things they're doing this year that relate to this and would like you to know about and get involved in. The first is that the Insurance Committee has raised a bill called an Act Concerning Insurance and Climate Change. That bill has, there's not a draft out yet, but we expect it to ask insurers to begin to share what investments they have in fossil fuels, including coal and tar sands. We expect that hearing, there will be a public hearing on the bill in early March, likely March 3rd or March 5th. And for all that are on the call and on our contact list, we'll be sharing information as soon as we have the bill language and information about that public hearing date. We'd like to get as many people to provide testimony, written and in person, to pack that hearing room. It is an opportunity to really elevate this issue with the media and apply pressure from our legislative front on our insurance companies here in Connecticut. The second bill I wanted to highlight is one that has been raised by the Labor Committee. It is an act concerning a Green New Deal. And it is a bill intended to do 4 things to move us from fossil fuels to a clean energy economy, and do it in a really comprehensive and holistic way. And so the 4 things that bill will do is to move us to 100% clean and renewable electricity, transportation, and buildings, the 3 sectors that are emitting the most pollution, and to set goals for when we're going to get there. It will recognize that this transition has an impact on jobs. There are going to be a lot of good jobs created in green energy, and to make sure that we have workers ready to do those jobs, that those jobs are lined up to be good jobs that pay family-sustaining wages, and also to recognize jobs that will be lost so we can retrain workers who may be working in more fossil fuel intensive industries to be ready for the clean and renewable technologies that are ahead. And the 3rd component of the bill is going to deal with environmental justice and the fact that our distressed municipalities bear the greatest burden of the fossil fuel economy. They are subject to the most fossil fuel emissions, and that results in health disparities and other disparities. To make sure that as we transition the economy, that we are heavily investing in our environmental justice communities. That bearing the burden of pollution and then also being the least able to afford clean energy means that we have to make that a priority, and we must make that transition in our environmental justice communities first. And then the last component of the bill is to make sure the bill is not just a piece of paper that sits on a shelf, that all state agency decision-making, permits, grants, contracts, applications, programs comply with our climate goals. Because if agencies can just make independent decisions and are not on the same track as those goals are, we're never going to meet them. So that is a really exciting bill. Like the insurance bill, it has not, the language has not come out yet, but also like the insurance bill, we expect the public hearing to be that first week in March. And we will be putting on a big press conference with advocates from labor, environmental justice, the environment community, consumer advocates. And so I want you to be aware of it. Would love to have all of you join us at those 2 important events that relate directly to this work that we are all trying to do. I'm excited. I think we're going to get a lot done in the next few months. And so I'm going to hand it over to Tom to talk, to move off the legislative side and specifically on actions with insurance companies.
Thank you, Sam. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. This is a really exciting campaign that I think can have a significant difference in terms of the climate fight in ways that most other states don't have the opportunity. Insurance companies hate risk. And the riskier that we help to make investing and underwriting of fossil fuels for them, the more they will run away from that. And I'm confident, just based upon the work that's been over the last couple of years, I know that RAN has a good report from, I think it was 2019, on changes in terms of the insurance industry. And there's a larger campaign being kicked off. If people want to see, we'll send around stuff later, but it's insureourfuture.org. Specifically in Connecticut, we think that we have a very unique opportunity to begin to pressure. It's actually insureourfuture.us, insureourfuture.us. Amongst the reasons why we think that we have a particular ability to influence them is because so many companies are domiciled in the state of Connecticut, which means they're subject to the regulation. And Sam talked about some real baseline beginning legislation that we're looking forward to having a hearing on in the next couple of weeks. For the action on April 23rd, our current plan is to meet at the old State House. And we're going to go around to a number of the downtown insurance companies engaging in creative actions, placing demands, and letting them know that we know what their current policies are towards investing in fossil fuels. We think that we'll be able to make it creative, that we'll get a lot of attention and create a lot of tension for those days. We do plan on having some correspondence and potential meetings with these folks even before that date in order to let them know that we're really ramping up. We're also beginning to develop a list of some really fun industry-related events that industry sponsors or underwrites that they don't want to have any type of embarrassments potentially happen at. These can be anything from recruitment fairs of potential employees on some of the college campuses that are designed to this, forums specifically at some universities where there are insurance majors and all, to more corporate sponsored events that they put on for publicity or industry-wide trainings or activities that we continue to hear more and more every day from people on the inside and the outside as we roll this out, as to it's giving us a roadmap for how we can continue to build pressure. We're also planning on doing some type of events at least 4 of the annual shareholder meetings this year within the state of Connecticut. And we're not going to just stick to property casualty insurers. Health and life insurers that invest in fossil fuels at this time are not fulfilling their fiduciary duty to their shareholders, to their policyholders, to the general public, in continuing to finance the crisis known as climate change. We believe that we could get the type of buy-in and mass mobilization from our members and from all the people that you're going to help hook us up with over the next few weeks, that we're going to be noted not only within those corporate executive areas and their board members, but we're going to be noted by all of their employees and by policymakers all across the board. This fight in many ways reminds me of a fight when I began to cut my teeth on organizing. That was the anti-apartheid movement. And we put pressure on our governments and everything to address the heinous situation in South Africa. And it wasn't until we began to take the profit out of the exploitation of an entire race within South Africa and force for divestment and change of business activities that the governments then followed. I think that's a good lesson as we look at this time period and we look at how upset people are, that going after the money pipeline is essentially creating the change we need. And Connecticut this spring will be at the forefront of that, and working with you, all the people on this phone, and the other allies that we have across the state, we're going to make a difference. So thank you very much. And if you could join us on April 23rd and are willing to help organize for that day of action, if you could let us know through the feedback mechanism here or otherwise, we could appreciate any hands on deck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, for that information. Very important action that we're doing here in Connecticut on April 23rd. I hope that you all can make it. I believe there are some polls for the attendees. And we have until 8:30, so we can take some questions. So there's the first poll question. Can you join Connecticut on April 23rd? Okay, Selectiona, is there another poll question?
I'm not sure. Tom, did you have another one you wanted to do?
Sure. A second one is, do you have any shares in Connecticut-based insurance companies that you're either willing to use to enter into the shareholder meeting with us, or that we can use as proxies to take our message directly to the shareholders?
Okay, great. I'll set that up in a second. And just so everyone knows, you should see the poll pop up on your screen. We see, let's see, 64% of folks have voted. If you haven't voted already, let us know. If you can join, can't, maybe we're doing a tour of insurers around, in and around Hartford, to make sure they know that we are calling on them to stop the money pipeline and stop insuring fossil fuels. And you'll get all the details from folks on this call. All right, last chance to vote before I end it and move on to the next question. 3, 2, 1. All right, see, 60% of folks can make it. Awesome.
There was a poll pop up, but then it went out.
Just getting the second one set up.
All right. I'd like to say thank you for all the attendees for this webinar. I hope I can all see you and meet you in person in the future. Okay, do you have shares in Connecticut insurance companies?
And as you're filling this out, you can also write Q&A. If you have questions, you can put them in that Q&A box, and it looks like we have some time to answer those. All right, let's see. Fortunately, it looks like not many big investors with insurance shares. We might have to look elsewhere to get those. It's okay. Having shares is not the only way that you can participate. We're going to do our last poll question here. Tom, do you want to talk about that one real quick? Just launched it.
Sure. We're as part of these industry events and the activities that we're looking to do mobilizations on, we're looking to create a rapid response team. If you're willing to be a part of our rapid response team, both turning out but also helping to turn out people, please let us know. We've had some questions also about whether or not we're going to be sharing this information and additional information. We will be sending out both the recording, as was mentioned before, but also links to some of the great resources that are already out there. We'll keep people informed as we go forward between now and the next steps here. And we are looking to do I see some to do events outside of just Hartford, that there are insurers outside of Hartford that we will be looking, in addition to Hartford, but we'll be looking to engage. So as I mentioned, insureourfuture.us is one web page, and RAN is another web page I can get up to speed real quickly.
All right. Okay.
Oh, and I just got a question about the Hartford tour. Who's helping to plan it? We are welcoming people to help participate, and we like the idea about a float going around. We've talked about possibly a puppet. So, Stacy Williams, that was a great question. Linda asked about the faith community. We have reached out. We are reaching out to the faith community all the time. So.
All right. Do we have another poll question, or is that it?
I think
That's
we'll
it.
move on to the Q&A now. Angel, do you see those Q&A?
I'm a little trouble. Oh, the Q&A, yes. All right. The first question is, are you interested in having XR Extinction Rebellion as an ally? I think we're always looking for allies in this fight. You definitely get in contact with us and see what we can do. The other one is there any action plan for Greenwich? Ran active in Greenwich and Chasen Pass. Yes, we're thinking of doing something for WR Berkeley and Greenwich. Who's coming up with creative ideas for Hartford tour? How about a float driving around? Yeah, I think that might, I don't know. We're still in the works of organizing everything for the action, but that's a pretty good idea, so consider that. From Philip Hoarder, there should be a 401k audit process to help people and their friends review their portfolio and divest at 350 as help so many already do. Please let me know. Okay. I don't know anything about that. Tom, do you know the message from Phil Hoarder, 8:16 p.m.?
I don't know who does those that type of work, but we can check with folks to look into it, Phil.
Okay. The next question is, how is anti-imperialism being integrated into campaign given many materials used to construct clean energy sources are products of violations of Indigenous rights and other human rights? Anybody want to tackle that question?
That is something that is clearly being discussed at a variety of tables. This campaign is focused on insurance companies and insurance companies' complicity in climate change.
Yeah, I will say kind of from RAND's perspective, this is something that we take really seriously. And a lot of our partners in our work on insurance companies and banks are Indigenous communities that are resisting fossil fuel projects in their lands. These fossil fuel projects that are violating Indigenous rights. So we are certainly approaching this work with an kind of anti-colonial, anti-imperialist lens. As to the question around the solutions in terms of clean energy, we also see kind of these false solutions around carbon offsets, right, where lands are kind of supposedly set aside, and a lot of times it's kind of land grabbing from Indigenous people. Through the engagement that we've been doing with insurance companies, we have been educating them about the importance of Indigenous rights, and in particular, free and prior informed consent, which is something that we hope insurance companies kind of set up a policy saying we'll only finance projects that have obtained the free, prior, and informed consent of Indigenous communities, other communities on whose land projects are being built.
All right. The next question is a link, so won't go into that one. The next question from Philip Werder. Instead of a float, how about a flotilla of some electric cars from local car dealers? That's an interesting idea. That's something we'll discuss. We're always welcoming ideas for this to bring more attention to the cause. So that's interesting idea. Thank you for that. From Philip again, this way we can actually be pro-biz for clean energy, adopting companies walking in informative banners regarding insurance perpetrators to divest from. Okay, so it was just explaining what he would. Okay, thank you for that. And from Ben Martin, there was a proposal in Connecticut Environment Committee for a moratorium on fossil fuel infrastructure last week. Will the bill be put forward from the committee? Sam, you want to answer that?
So it was stripped from the agenda during the committee meeting, and that was the last meeting the Environment Committee had to raise bills. So the answer is no, not in the form that we had hoped that it would get raised.
All right, and I believe that's all the questions, correct? Wait, I see one over here. Oh, please give the names of the two bills in the Connecticut legislature so that I can follow up its progress. So Sam, what are the names of the bills again?
They don't have bill numbers yet, so I would give you bill numbers if I had them, and I will definitely forward to all the participants in the call once we do. The insurance bill is called an Act Concerning Insurance and Climate Change. And the Labor Committee bill is called an Act Concerning a Green New Deal.
Okay. Let's see. All right, there's more questions coming up. Is there a time schedule for the April 23rd event starting at the Old State House? Local car dealers who likely not want to get involved, but owners of EVs would. The event will be starting at 11:30 in the morning. We will be gathering at the Old State House. And I bet that owners of EVs would like to get involved because they're already environmentally conscious when they buy an EV. So, yes, that's true. The other one, did you reply to our Helmut's question? Yes, we've been in communication with him. In the 2020 iteration of the Governor's Council on Climate Change, the Chief Technology Architect of the Hartford Insurance Company is one of the members. How can he help us? Tom, you want to take that one?
Sure. He should stop underwriting and investing in fossil fuels. So he should get to Hartford to do that. It's very good information for us to know. I had already taken note. Thank you, Patrice. Okay, I think we can.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for attending this webinar. I hope to see you all at the event on April 23rd at 11:30 in the Old State House. We will reach out to you with more information, and just follow us. And we welcome all the help we can get. So thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you to all the panelists. And that's it.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.